All right, man. Peace. So it looks like we're starting to get near the culmination of the Jemele Hill storyline. We'll see what little twists and turns are planned for Miss Jemele Hill later on down the line. ESPN finally decided to pull the trigger on her removal. I knew it was only a matter of time because she was costing them money. As I've tried to tell you, brothers, for a long time now, the Jemele Hill storyline was not going to work out for her because she was caught in the woke rabbit hole. She's another liberal black female trying to play all sides. And when you play all sides, eventually all sides come to get you. That's how that happens. You have to pick a side. And the conundrum that Jemele Hill finds herself in is the same conundrum that most of these liberal black females are going to find themselves in as this society starts to make people make a decision on what they want to do. The liberal black female, once again, she wants to play the racialist angle, talking about race as if she cares or as if she's quote unquote woke. And then they want to play the globalist angle, where they act as if they care so much about all these other demographics that are allegedly being discriminated against: homosexuals, lesbians, pansexuals, transgenders. That's why I always state, if you pay attention, most of these liberal females in general, but the liberal black female in particular, I concentrate on because my channel is geared towards the so-called black man. So that's the demographic of female who's going to affect him the most. They like to try to play the globalist angle. And if you ever view a lot of their social media platforms, they have rainbow flags and all the other things. Brothers have to be aware of this, because you have to understand that when the repercussions come upon these females, they're not going to know what to do. When the day of judgment comes upon the liberal female, when I say the day of judgment, I'm not talking about from a scriptural or from a biblical perspective. I'm just talking about societally. They're not going to know what to do. So right now, Jemele Hill has been told, look, you're pretty much an anchor on SportsCenter. When I say anchor, I don't mean an analyst. I'm talking about she's weighing down that show. She's weighing the show down. And if you pay attention, if you watch SportsCenter, what they call the Six, with Michael Smith and Jemele Hill, they have gone to great lengths to take away talk time from the both of them. Because as I told you, brothers, and this is why I concentrated on a lot of segments from that show, even prior to her attempt to detonate on Donald Trump, they were trying to use that show as a platform to speak about a lot of so-called quote unquote black issues and to promote a lot of liberal black ideologies. And that wasn't their job. Their job was to come to 6 p.m. and try to emit that black hip energy, that pop culture energy. Because you have to understand that the governing body of ESPN is a bunch of 50 and 55-year-old Caucasians who are trying to stay ahead of the curve. When you want to stay ahead of the curve, you always want to go to the so-called black male and black female, because a lot of the emanations of the so-called black community become pop culture. It's just a fact. So this is why they're encouraged to get on TV, Michael Smith and Jemele Hill, and talk about Kendrick Lamar and all these other hip hop artists and R&B artists. But now, due to the Colin Kaepernick event, social engineering agenda, they hopped on board that and ended up torpedoing their own show. I told you, brothers, that eventually Jemele Hill is not even going to be covering sports. She most likely is going to end up on CNN or, one of these liberal news networks where she can talk about sports and politics and current events, things of that nature. But that's down the line. She doesn't want to make it look like she got fired, so she'll probably work at the Undefeated for another year and a half or so and then leave and get her own show on ESPN or MSNBC or something like that. That's how that's going to go. But they have to make it look good because they don't want to make it look like she got demoted because of her statements. But I told you, brothers, money talks. I'm sure that Donald Trump had a series of conversations with the top brass at ESPN and let them know how he could tax and levy their organization and his knowledge that they were losing subscribers. Period. We live in a commercial society. We don't live in an emotionally driven society. And the reason why it's so easy to manipulate so-called black people is because they're so damn emotional. It's just the fact of the matter. So when you get a greater understanding of the money system, that is what puts you in a position of power. Now, the only way for so-called black people as a group to raise their level of clout and power is to embrace a higher cultural understanding, because that will allow for an implementation of an intraracial economy. That's the only thing that's going to work, period. You hear a lot of Negroes, they come on the internet and they talk about economics, this and economics, that. Economics is not the first step. The first step is culture. In a strong culture, you know that what you're teaching your children in your house is what the family next door is teaching their children, and the family next door to them, so on and so forth. That builds trust. When you have trust, now you know I can do business. I can perform commerce with this person because I know that their word means something. That's how that works. And a lot of our people, they don't grasp that. They don't understand that. But it is what it is. You know, we'll go further into that concept down the line. Back to Jemele Hill. They can't just outright fire her, and they cannot just outright demote her. And I won't even necessarily call it a demotion per se, because a demotion really is a lessening of salary. I'm sure that her salary is going to stay the same, but she is going to have to be moved because she is an eyesore. Period. People don't want to look at her because she's very unprofessional. And as I told you, brothers, from the very start, what the liberal black female likes to do is play the racialist angle so that on the back end, once she gets you to trust her, she can come with her feminist angle. You know, I'm pro black men. Look at what they're doing to our brothers. And then when they get a lot of sucker ass liberal black men to believe them, they come along on the backside and they say black men are the white people of black people. That's the biggest and the most bold slap to the face that a public black female has given to the so-called black man in a long time. And a lot of you liberal black men, a lot of you internet revolutionary brothers got your feelings hurt. And that's a good thing. That was a good thing. A lot of you cats needed to get your feelings hurt because a lot of y'all are silly and simple. Well, let's read this article and see what it has to say. Jemele Hill talks Sports Center exit, ESPN future, and yes, those tweets. Jemele Hill and Michael Smith launched a retooled version of ESPN's 6 p.m. Sports Center in February of last year with no small degree of fanfare. The show got a new Twitter-friendly designation, SC6. Well, if you watch this show and you look at the set, not only is the number 6 venerated, but the number 666 is venerated and exalted. The duo's first broadcast aired the day after the Super Bowl and included a parody of the Golden Girls. Personality was in abundance. Well, Michael Smith and Jemele Hill, they started their little dress-up act on His and Hers, which is where they they should have stayed. They should have stayed on His and Hers. They never should have tried to go to Sports Center on the 6th, but I think that they took that as an opportunity to take their brand of expression to a greater forum where they could hopefully gain more notoriety for themselves. But it backfired because they talk too much. If that's possible on TV, they talk too much. And it obviously was possible because ESPN lessened their talk time. When you pay attention to the 6 Sports Center at 6 p.m., they have a whole bunch of field reporters come and speak and talk about what's going on at their location rather than allowing Michael Smith and Jemele Hill to comment now. So that's proof right there that the brass at ESPN know that the viewing audience is offended by many of the things that they're saying. AKA is bad for business. By autumn, however, Hill realized she prefers some aspects of her older jobs to her new one. Isn't it interesting? It says here by autumn, Hill realized she preferred some aspects of her older jobs to her new one. That's the same time period that she made all those reckless statements about Donald Trump. So maybe she realized she prefers some aspects of her older jobs when she stuck her foot in her mouth and started talking a bunch of shit that she could not substantiate. And she got the rude awakening that, no, this is not a pulpit, Jemele Hill. No, this is not a feminist meeting. No, this is not a pseudo-liberal Black Caucus congressional meeting. You're a sports anchor. People want to hear you talk about sports, and most people don't even want to hear you talk about that. But because you match up well with Michael Smith, you guys have good synergy, we'll stomach you for now. But anyway, the function of SportsCenter is not necessarily built for anchor commentary. So much of my career at ESPN, almost exclusively at some points, has been in commentary. No, SportsCenter actually was built for anchor commentary. The new SportsCenter that they formulated for you and Michael Smith was actually made for the both of you to comment. The issue is that both of you started to make your entire show about social justice. You were spending 2 and 3 and 4 segments talking about Colin Kaepernick and begging the Caucasian man to give you a hug. And when you got frustrated that you couldn't get the hug from the Caucasian man, you spazzed out on Donald Trump because you're another Twitter victim who was going back and forth with people on social media like a buffoon. ESPN tried to cover their own tracks and act as if they were not humbling you and putting you on timeout, but they had to do that, even though they're a subsidiary of Disney, and we all know that Disney's platform is homosexuality, pedophilia, and the promotion of the feminine principle, right? Allegedly, even though it's very clear what their stances are on those things. And ESPN, as I've stated, is a subsidiary of Disney. There's only so far that they can go because money talks. And like I told you, brothers, Donald Trump not only contacted ESPN, he contacted the NFL and let them know that if they didn't get their shit together, they were going to be the victims of the new tax bill. And they were most likely going to be thoroughly audited. That's how a billionaire communicates with other billionaires. Donald Trump wasn't going to go back and forth with raggedy ass Jemele Hill. And even though he sent out that tweet towards her, you saw how many of the other anchors on ESPN were begging Donald Trump to stop talking about Jemele Hill. You have to understand that when you start something, you have to be prepared that somebody's going to say something back. Let me see here. She says, they hired me as a columnist. I've been giving my opinion since day one. She added, the SportsCenter gig, she says, really wasn't my calling. The SportsCenter gig wasn't your calling, even though you've been doing it for over a year and you were on His and Hers for over a year. Okay, Jemele Hill. We know what this really was. They told you, look, Jemele, we have to make this look good. Our ratings are starting to dip. There's new management now that John Skipper has been forced to leave because, come to find out, he's a big drug addict. So we have to move you. We got word from the top brass. They want you to be moved. The 6 p.m. SportsCenter is a showcase sports center that they often use as a lead-in to sporting events. People do not want to look at your frog face looking ass talking about Colin Kaepernick and trying to act woke for an hour. So we're going to have to move you, Jemele. We're going to make it look good. We're going to let you go work with them other liberal black dudes at the Undefeated. And, peace. Let's see here. The SportsCenter gig, she says, really wasn't my calling. In recent weeks, she reached out to ESPN brass, including content chief Connor Shell, to discuss next steps. Yes, after Connor Shell reached out to your ass. Okay. In a move that drew new scrutiny to a sports media juggernaut that already gets plenty of it, Hill and ESPN announced Friday that she would leave SC6. I requested this. They were more than happy to support me. I know they were more than happy to support you because you were not a necessity. If you were a necessity, they would not have let you leave. They would have said, Jemele, let's talk about this. Brothers, I told you for the longest time that how this was going to go. She was going to come back. She wasn't going to leave right away. They were going to make it look like she was welcomed back with open arms. They knew that they were going to move her to the undefeated when they brought her back from suspension. Okay? When they let her ass come back from suspension and she had that interview in the airport, looking like some raggedy baby mama. They knew that they were going to demote her from back then, and she most likely knew it. They might have told her from back then, but they said, we're going to make it look good. Just come back to SportsCenter, work with Michael Smith, and after about a month and a half, 2 months, we're going to send you to the undefeated, because right now it's a little too hot. The block is a little too hot, and Donald was talking about taxing us, and we can't have that. So we're going to redeploy you, but so that you can save face amongst your Twitter followers, we're going to make it look like you came back like a conquering hero. Get the fuck out of here. I requested this. They were more than happy to support me. She says I was the one who wanted to do something else. Yeah, sure you were. Well, if you've been feeling like this since last October, then why did you lie in the interview with TMZ in the airport and say that everything with you and ESPN is good and that you're coming back and that you're not going anywhere? How come you didn't just tell them from the time they suspended you, I want to do something else? Let me see this little blurb here with her words. While I am amused by the rumors that I was demoted, kicked off the 6 p.m. Sports Center, or whatever else can be conjured, the truth is pretty simple and not nearly as dramatic. Well, I don't find this to be dramatic at all. I don't think that it's dramatic that they kicked you off of Sports Center. Number one, you wasn't that good. Number two, you were talking about topics that you had no business talking about. You barely know anything about sports. You were on Twitter ranting and raving about Donald Trump, and then you came on your television show, you and that other idiot, Michael Smith, trying to act as if you were acolytes for Colin Kaepernick. None of you guys had any plan. Brothers, that's why I call them agents of chaos, man. When you follow behind agents of chaos, there is never a resolution to what they're saying. There's never going to be an orderly summation for the followers of agents of chaos. Never. I asked to leave the show. Some of y'all probably need to read that sentence again because of a strong desire to return to reporting, writing, and commentary. Not many people get to say they were a SportsCenter anchor, although I wonder if I have the record for shortest stint. ESPN stats and info, get on that. So I consider myself lucky to have won that title and sat in the same chair. Blah, 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 blah. This is cut off. I'm not going through all this. You get the point. She's acting like it was her choice. Whatever. She will move to the undefeated, the ESPN outlet devoted to sports, culture, and race, and among other topics, right about the intersection of sports and politics when applicable. So that tells you that she was ran off the show, because now they're going to pretty much send her off into a more marginalized section or portion of ESPN and let her feed the liberal black demographic that wants to read that bullshit. But no, you cannot represent us on television. And that's what I've been telling you, brothers, for the longest time. When you're running a multi-billion-dollar corporation, you cannot have people representing you on television that are speaking rhetoric that is going to marginalize a certain portion of your viewing audience. And the fact of the matter is that the conservative Caucasian market felt like they were being marginalized by watching that show. So that's pretty much how that goes. But she will contribute to a number of programs on the network. Hill says viewers are likely to see her turn up in documentaries on the E60 News magazine, and if she and Smith, who she says is like a family member, can work through logistics, a revived version of their His and Hers podcast that raised her ESPN profile. You know, it's amazing, man. And I've told you brothers this before. When you truly pay attention to most of these liberal black females in entertainment, they always have to grab onto the coattails of a black man to get them in an affluent position. But then when they get into an affluent position, they want to rant and rave against the black man. That's why I say when you look at most of these black actresses in Hollywood, if they're not getting roles from black directors, they're not going anywhere. Where do you see Sanaa Lathan for the most part, unless Tyler Perry or Lee Daniels or somebody are giving them roles, right? Even Taraji P. Henson, even though she gets more mainstream roles now, Tyler Perry carried her through the 2000s, right? John Singleton employed her. When you see so many of these liberal black females, they get to a certain level and they want to talk about how the black man is the white people of black people. But out of Jemele Hill's own mouth and testimony, she said many times that Michael Smith is the one who helped her get a certain level of affluence on ESPN, even though she'd been associated with them for over 10 years. Wasn't nobody checking for her ass. See, Carrie Champion, she can kind of pick herself up because she has enough physical allure after putting on 3 layers of makeup that she does not necessarily need a so-called black male to hook her up, because she could just sleep her way up. Somebody like Jemele Hill, she needs help. Let's see here. There may be some other projects in the works too, which she declined to detail. Smith will remain with SportsCenter. Yeah, he'll remain with SportsCenter because he wasn't dumb enough to get on Twitter and rant about Donald Trump. So ESPN did not demote him like they demoted you, or I should say reallocate you. Because once again, a demotion is just when you have a lessening of salary. So she's really not being demoted per se. She's just being reallocated because she cannot be used as a public figure anymore. And people just really don't want to hear what she has to say. ESPN isn't charity, says Hill, who notes she is in the first year of a multi-year contract with the company. They want a full return on this. What does that mean, Jemele Hill? Sound like you talking like you're an indentured servant. See, Jemele Hill, at the end of the day, she doesn't want to fuck up her money. And brothers, that's why I tell you, everything is about the money. You don't listen to these liberal blacks and they spiel. They're getting on TV talking shit. They don't really mean any of that. If and when Jemele Hill and Michael Smith were to have gotten called into the office by John Skipper or whoever was their chief and told to stop talking about Kaepernick and stop talking about race, they would have stopped talking about Kaepernick and stopped talking about race. Because their God is their money. They got on TV and talked all this shit about how Kaepernick was giving it all up for the cause and blah, blah, blah. And none of them are ready to give up their job for Kaepernick's cause. None of them. All they do is talk shit all damn day. Let's see here. But like she said, they want a full return on this. In other words, what? They made an investment in her. They view her as an asset, like a stock or a bond. They want to see that bond reach its maturity so that they can cash in. Then they can say, you know what, bitch, have a nice day. We paid you, you did your job. Right? But what does she really mean when she says they want to see they want a full return on this? What she's really saying is that they most likely gave her a contract that is has a certain amount of guaranteed aspects to it. So if they were to let her go, they would have to pay her. And they don't want to have to still pay her if they let her go. They want to get their money's worth. But they know that they cannot have her on TV. So they're going to send her over to the Undefeated so that they can get their money off of her. She's admitting it right here. So she's also admitting that, no, she's not the one who initiated this move. They told her, we're going to move you. And like I tell you, brothers, all the time, the liberal woman is not going to fuck up her money because that's what allows her to talk shit. If she wasn't making any money, then she has to humble herself. She's not going to do that. Staying with SC6 would have started to weigh on her, she says. I've often heard people say, before you break up with somebody, think about it for at least a month. That's more modern day liberal woman bullshit philosophizing. That's what females who've been with over 30 dudes say. That's what they talk about. How they have to think about breaking up with somebody and all this nonsense. But that's a whole other topic in another video. She did, she says, but her feelings on the matter stayed the same. I didn't want to become resentful. I wanted to be a part of something I thought was more deeply aligned with the kind of commentator I had become. What does that mean? That means that she wants to talk more about liberal black ideologies. She wants to move on from sports, like I've been telling you, brothers, eventually go to a network like a CNN and MSNBC, where she can be given her own platform to talk shit, but she can't because more likely than not, she's in a contract where there's a certain amount of guaranteed money, and ESPN wants to make sure that they get their money's worth before she leaves. Her decision, she adds, was not influenced by the recent departure of John Skipper, the Disney unit's former president, who left late last year. By the way, that man left because he was forced to acknowledge that he's a drug addict. I had those feelings while he was still president, and had he still been president, I would have expressed my concerns to him. No, you wouldn't have expressed shit, because you don't have the power to express anything. You're an indentured servant. They're going to do whatever the hell they want to do with you. Hill's SportsCenter exit underscores some of the challenges the Walt Disney-owned unit has as it continues to try to tweak the franchise for the modern sports viewer. Executives have spent months reworking the show, the bread and butter of the network and one of the largest occupants of its schedule, so that each edition is tailored for the time in which it airs. SportsCenter can't be a monolith. Viewers need different things at different times of the day. Scott Van Pelt has found success with a late-night version of SportsCenter that mixes a little humor with the sports news. SportsCenter AM airs earlier than any edition of the show has in the network's history. Even so, Hill says she found viewers still wanted their bread and butter from the bread and butter. The 6 p.m. crowd wanted its news and info. At 6, there are different demands. Those demands aren't wrong. It's the nature of the time slot, says Hill. The program, she adds, ends up being more traditional than I think we all imagined it would be. No, I think that the time slot just puts you in front of a mass audience of people who would never have seen how ridiculous some of your statements are. You know, just like you have mom and pop stores, and then you have chain franchises. When your business becomes popular enough to become a chain franchise, your standards of operation have to be much higher. When you're running a mom and pop restaurant, if the food is good enough, people will tolerate that your chairs are broken down and your tables might not be as clean as they should be. They just want to come and get the food and leave anyway. They don't even want to sit and eat there. But when you get a franchise, your franchise has to operate according to a very high level of operation. Or if not, you're going to get reported. That's what happened to Jemele Hill. Jemele Hill thought that she was going to bring a lot of the same low-level racial discussions to 6 p.m., and it didn't work. The show continues to evolve as our primary mission is serving sports fans no matter the time of day, said Norby Williamson, ESPN's executive vice president, production, and executive editor, in a statement. We have clearly learned that viewers expect the most comprehensive news coverage and compelling analysis during the 6 p.m. hour. What does that mean? Let me read this again. Let me read this paragraph again. The show continues to evolve as our primary mission is serving sports fans no matter the time of day. In other words, what? Stick to sports. The stick to sports crowd is a relevant crowd. You know why? Because ESPN is a sports network. Said Norby Williamson, ESPN's executive vice president, production, and executive editor, in a statement. We have clearly learned that viewers expect the most comprehensive news coverage and compelling analysis during the 6 p.m. hour. What does that mean? We have quickly learned that. They have been inundated with so many emails and so much correspondence from viewers saying that they're tired of Jemele Hill. That's what that translates to. And when they brought her back, she was probably put on a probationary evaluation where they were going to check their viewer statistics to see if there was a dip in ratings after she came back. They probably already knew that they were going to reallocate her. And she was probably already under the understanding that she was going through a period of evaluation. And after they looked at their numbers, they said, no, we have to get rid of this bitch. Because it's just going to cost us too much money to have her there as a co-anchor in that time slot. And we've already cut off most of Michael Smith and hers talking time. So she has to go because it's clear that with all the pressure that we're getting from various sides, it's just not worth it. Some ESPN aficionados and critics might wonder if something else is at play. Well, I'm not wondering. I already know. Because I told you brothers this from last year when this bullshit first came to the forefront. Hill sparked controversy in October after she tweeted about President Donald Trump, calling him a white supremacist. Well, you know what? Jemele Hill is a female supremacist. So I guess it takes a supremacist to know a supremacist. The comment drew the notice of the White House, which called for her to be fired. A few weeks later, Hill used Twitter to suggest people boycott sponsors of the Dallas Cowboys in response to comments he made about player protests during the national anthem. ESPN suspended her for 2 weeks. Well, she got suspended for being a damn idiot. Because if you're going to advise fans of the Dallas Cowboys to boycott the sponsors of the Dallas Cowboys, who are part of the NFL, which is a business partner of ESPN, you're fucking with your own money without knowing it. Because believe me, knowingly, she would never fuck with her own money. As has already been proven by the fact that she won't leave ESPN. Despite the fact that they are reallocating her and moving her to a different section where she can't be seen. So it's very obvious that she would not fuck with her own money if she truly understood what she was saying when she made that advisement for fans of the Cowboys to boycott the team sponsors. And that's my point about many of these people, these characters and their statements. They're just talking and they don't truly understand what they're saying. They're just looking for attention. And they try to use the excuse that many of these various factions are trying to stop their quote unquote free speech. Well, with the power to speak freely, you also have the responsibility to be knowledgeable about what you're talking about, because you can lead people astray. You can lead people astray based off of your ability to say what you want to say. Just because you want to say something doesn't mean you should. You should spend the time that it takes to research things so that you actually have an accurate understanding of what you're trying to project. And Jemele Hill does not grasp that. She's trying to use the old Marxist boycott everything, and she's working for a corporation that is in business with a team that she's trying to cripple by advising their fans to no longer support their sponsors. That's how stupid she is. Let's see here. It says ESPN suspended her for 2 weeks. The tweets were not in any way related to the decision. Hill says, I get it. It's very easy to link it to that. But if that were really the agenda, that would have been executed months ago. Well, that would have been executed months ago if you truly wanted to leave ESPN. But you don't want to leave ESPN because they owe you money. That's why you said that ESPN is not a charity. You said that, Jemele Hill. You said ESPN is not a charity. Why would that be? Why would it be a factor whether or not it was a charity if you truly felt like they were not allowing you to express yourself? If you truly felt like you were being oppressed in your expression, then you would have just left. The reason why you didn't leave is because your only God is money. All that bullshit you talking about, empowerment, that all falls by the wayside when it comes to you making sure that you get your money. And that's what I try to communicate to many of these brothers who sometimes fall into the liberal black rabbit hole, the vortex. Don't follow behind these liberal women, man. Remember at that shit in Charlottesville? I told you brothers in the original video that dumbass nigga who got hit by the car and got his damn Jordans knocked off his feet, he was following after a liberal black woman, and lo and behold, what was revealed? You see that? That's what happens when you follow behind them, man. You only follow behind the Most High. That's it. You don't follow behind no liberal woman, because the liberal woman is going up Monday, Tuesday she's going down, Wednesday, she's going right. Thursday, she's going left. And Jemele Hill, as usual, is lying in the middle of this article. She feels most people are going to get past the recent episode, but recognizes some will not. That's okay. They're allowed to feel that way. The people that don't want to get past it won't. They made their decision not to. It's not something that bothers me. They have a definite right to feel that way. I don't really think about that when I'm on television or as I'm reporting or writing. Yet she feels her presence on SportsCenter may have amplified what happened with Twitter. I've often wondered if the controversy would have been as significant as it was if I weren't a SportsCenter personality. Wow. I hope that you brothers understand how stupid this person is now. This person actually says that she sits back and wonders if it would have been as controversial if she wasn't on TV. If you have to think about that, then you're not qualified to speak on anything other than maybe what your name is. Why would you wonder about if the reason why a situation became so big is because you're on TV? Why else would it have become so big, you idiot? You're a public figure. See, the things that I tell you, brothers, months in the past are finally starting to register to this dumbass right now. I'm not saying it wouldn't have been a headline, but would it have reached the White House? I'm not so sure about this. Well, why do you care? Supposedly, you're not scared of Trump. The liberal black woman is not scared of anybody, allegedly. She's a strong black woman, or she's a strong woman, right? The women of the other races, they don't fear anybody, allegedly. So why are you worried about whether or not it would have reached the White House? You should have been happy. No, you reached Donald Trump. That shows you that she was just talking shit on the internet. Because now she got scared when she found out that Trump heard about it. Shoe leather journalism is the kind of work she says she craves. She misses the chance to talk directly to athletes, coaches, and people on the ground. Hill spent years as a sports writer for papers in Raleigh, Detroit, and Orlando. One downside of an anchor job, she says, is every day you get further from the action. You start missing being in the field. Of course, because when you're out in the field, you could run around and you could get attention from different people. You could engage in a bunch of reckless behavior, and not get held accountable for it. I told you guys in another video, I can't remember which one. A lot of these female anchors, they go into Tibet and to Zimbabwe and all these other places. They work in 12 hours a day. They end their night, they go to some bar, and some dude takes them home and plows them out, and then they got to wake up 4 hours later to do their telecast for the next day. That's how they live. And that's the life that Jemele Hill wants to live. I guess it's not working out with the personal trainer guy. She expects to work hard. This is not something to shuffle me off to the side. Yes, it is. That's why you said it. That's exactly what it is, Jemele Hill. That's what I've been saying the whole article. That's all it was to shuffle your ass off to the side. They expect me to produce, and they are looking forward to collaborating with me on content and ideas. And I think we are all excited about the potential possibilities going forward. She will move to Washington for her undefeated role. If this was supposed to be a ruse to bury me somewhere in a corner of ESPN, I didn't get that feeling. Well, wait a minute, Jemele Hill. You said that this was your idea. So, Jemele Hill, you said that it was your idea to go back out into the field. Now you're saying that if this was a ruse to put you off into a corner somewhere, you didn't get that feeling. Why would that have been a factor in this decision if it was your decision? That's something that you wonder about if it was their decision. That's why I told you, brothers, all this is bullshit. They told her ass, look, we're going to suspend you for a couple of weeks because you don't know how to fucking listen. We told you to stop talking shit. You talk shit about Jerry Jones, one of our business partners. We're going to suspend your ass for 2 weeks. When you come back, we're going to evaluate you over the next 2 months or so into the new year. And if shit ain't working, we're going to send your black ass back out there into the field to pick cotton with them undefeated Negroes out there. Okay? That's what happened. Now she in this interview lying her ass off. If you want to impress me, get on TV and say, you know what, ESPN, fuck you. I'm starting my own website. I'm Jemele Hill. All right, my new website is going to be JemeleHillHatesBlackNiggas.com. Come check out my articles. Okay? Get the hell out of here. Let me read this again. She will move to Washington for her undefeated role. If this was supposed to be a ruse to bury me somewhere in a corner of ESPN, I didn't get that feeling, she says. I know it may not be the sexiest story to tell, but the truth is I miss writing and reporting. Yeah, whatever. So that's the end of the story, at least for now, with Miss Jemele Hill. But anyway, peace.